Welcome to the Loudest for Takeover podcast. Today we are going to talk about money, wealth, abundance, because we as artists and creatives, it is a real thing that we have to face. Irregularity in our income, sometimes not knowing when the next gig is coming. There could be money anxiety, and sometimes we really live in abundance. So let's talk about all these things with somebody who is a coach. She's a feminine liberation and leadership coach. She's an international best-selling author. She also says that you can't think your way to more love, joy, abundance, and success. She says that the key to unlock the door to more is the intelligence and coherence of your embodiment practice. She is the founder of Dance Manifestations. She is actually coming back on this podcast for a second time. Please welcome Lisy Butterfly. Hi, Lisy. How are you doing today?
Hello, Cindy. I'm doing great. And you?
I'm really good. I'm really excited to talk to you today, and I really want to unlock my full potential when it comes to money and abundance.
Well, we love
So,
that.
yes, let's dive into it. Because some people might not have listened to our first episode together, can you just give us a summary about what you do, who you coach, and what your coaching business is about?
Yes, with pleasure. So, welcome everyone if you're tuning back in. So, my work is all about embodiment. So, it's all connected to somatic intelligence, the somatic practices. I'm a former performer. So, I've been in the dance industry for quite a few years, almost a decade. And from the places that I've been and the things that I've seen through my practice as an artist, I have transitioned into becoming a coach because there was just a deeper calling in my soul, and I knew there was something more for me to uncover. And so now I coach women all around the world. I also work with couples and with men in a more sporadic way. And what we do in our sessions is very much soma based, it's body based. So we connect with emotions through the body, we release things, we call in new dreams, big visions. I work with visionaries, creatives, passionates, people who truly feel like they have a big calling in their heart and they desire to just have someone by their side who can cheer them on, support them, but also unlock higher levels of power and performance.
So you're coaching leaders, you're coaching people to achieve their big dreams, also independent business owners, entrepreneurs, artists. So when it comes to your coaching in regards to wealth, abundance, and money, I saw on your website that you said you want your clients to have new wealthy realities. What does it mean to live a wealthy reality? What is it actually?
I love that question because it truly is a whole positioning to even just claim that path for ourselves. Really looking, I really love to look into the historical evolution of humanity and where we are positioned today. And what I've come to see through my body of work as well is that very often we get entangled in survival mechanisms with money. I mean, money will bring up all of our survival mechanisms. It is one of the topics, if you want to know which kinds of survival mechanics you're going to be entrapped in, look at the way money makes you feel. And from that feeling base, that is really the place where I know, okay, how are we feeling with money? And how can we leverage that feeling sensed base, that state of being with money and abundance, so that we can just claim more, right? So the topic that you asked me to talk about today is truly dear to my heart because I know what it's like to be an artist and counting my last cents every month and making sure that, I get my bills covered and all of that and all of the adjustments we have to make to just financially get through this sometimes very challenging path that we've chosen for ourselves. And most of the time, we've chosen this path because we have a heart in there, right? Like we love it. We desire to expand through it. It's a higher calling than what we know. And before we know it, we have to put on 2 caps, 3 caps, 3 different kinds of roles that we have to leverage as artists, right? We're not just the artist and the creator. We also, need to run a business. We need to sell our art. We need to think about how people will perceive us. We need to leverage our marketing. We need to leverage our communication. We need to leverage so many skills, right? I truly feel that artists are, unless you would be working for a company. And even if you were working for a company, you would still have that personal story and that personal brand that you also want people to feel when you're on stage. And it truly baffles me that money just seems to be this thing that we all want, but we don't really know how to hold it, how to have it, how to leverage more out of it. And to me, a wealthy reality really is a reality where we are completely lucid that money is a part of this human making of ourselves, right? And it hasn't been long that, especially women, have not been seen as private property, right? But they could actually buy assets. They could, invest. They could even open a bank account. We don't need to go back that far in history. It's maybe about the 70s or 80s where most countries started to shift. And then if you're looking into the developing countries, that's going to be even later, right? So, especially in that experience of being a woman artist or a feminine artist, and of course, this is totally not gender based. We will all go through some kinds of ebbs and flows. But what I've come to see is that women cancel themselves out of the wealth game so quickly. We're so quick to just go, oh, no, it's okay. You can just pay me this much. And I've seen this in myself. And even like making asserted conversations around money and negotiating salaries and pays and the way that I desire to be paid for the value that I offer as an artist. It's a huge curveball for, artists when they, especially when they're coming out of, fresh out of school with their passion and heart on fire. They just want to expand and expel themselves into just being able to even just show their art just seems to be such a privilege. And at some point, I feel like it is important that we address this theme and this topic, because if you really want to break through as an artist, finances will be a huge theme on your path. You can't really break through as an artist without even getting in touch with that topic. I know it's a bit of a sensitive topic, and at the same time, there is so much potential, right? And I feel like the potential runs all the way back into our soma, all the way back into these nervous system reactions that we have with money, right? If we're freezing before asking for a pay rise, or we were in the fight syndrome where we're just like working so hard without having anything coming back to us, and so on. I mean, this is a huge conversation. So I feel like having a wealthy reality truly begins with the lucidity that you can have one. And then from that place, understanding, okay, so where are my pockets of tension when it comes to abundance, money, and financial literacy? And even through the energetics, like how does the energy and the currency of money actually flow? And that's really the place where I've done a huge excavation in my own life, and I now continue to do so with my clients and also with myself. Because here's the thing, like your money wounds, they keep growing along with you until you release them. One of the things that I love to say is that money anxiety doesn't actually go away with more money. And that's really something that I've come to see in my personal life. And I now see when I work with clients and having them make shifts from 10K months to 15K months, it like we still will bump into the same kinds of patterns and survival mechanisms that these people often had, at a very lower standpoint with their finances.
You said so many things. There are so many things I want to bounce back from. So I'm just thinking maybe we can first talk about the roots of why artists struggle with money. And then later on, we can see how we can unlock certain parts. And then perhaps we can talk about the results that you've seen happening in your business or people that you've coached. So can we first maybe talk more about why artists are struggling with money? You're talking about survival mechanisms. what are the survival mechanisms that you can really see define artists? You talk about money wounds. What are the money wounds that creatives usually carry?
Yeah, I mean, there are many things that we could touch upon here. Like, because alone, if we're looking at the four basic survival mechanisms of fight, freeze, flight, and fawn, you could literally just go and find all kinds of symptoms around this. What I've come to see that especially dancers actually have is this fawn um, survival mechanism, and also a little bit of freeze, but mostly fawn, because we are so good at showing a face and being another. And you probably know this, Cindy, when we step on stage, we forget about the like whatever's happened in our personal lives, it just gets left in the backstage and we have to perform and crush it. And so in a way, that incredible skill also brings dancers and performers very often into that fawn response, which is, when we're faking that everything's fine, it's okay, right? And so it's like, I've seen this happen in my own life where people would literally pay me, I think at the time was like £20 an hour to just teach a bunch of kids in an after school club. And I'd be like, great, this is amazing. And deep down thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? This can't be it. Like, I can't possibly be surviving on this. Like, alone a travel ticket through London already costs that much. So I wasn't even covering my travel expenses. I wasn't even covering not even lunch, let alone think about the bills at the end of the month, right? And so it's interesting that we could literally just go into that fawn response and analyze, okay, so why is it that we go into this fawn response exactly? And when we truly trace back, it doesn't just link up with our incredible skill set of being performers, but we can trace it all the way back into childhood. Very often we have seen our parents in a certain financial situation, and we have kind of picked up on those programs and realized, oh, okay, so this is how the big ones do it. This is how the adults do it. This is how I'm supposed to do it too. And I've definitely noticed and witnessed my parents go into fawn responses, right? Like, my parents come from a rather modest income stream. And my mom was a cleaner, my dad was an electrician. And it's like in these lower classes of society in that way where we see our parents. And I mean, I've had huge impressions around money. And so it took me all the way until my late 20s to even just realize that, fawning for £20 an hour was not going to satisfy me to the fullest and not even cover my basic needs. That's huge, right? So I feel like, as artists, we also, because we're driven by passion and by our heart, we very often link, into that emotional nervous system. And it's like, we just want to be happy doing whatever we're doing, whatever it takes, right? And so we maybe sometimes accept certain treatments and accept certain ways of being looked at as, a commodity, as some kind of object, right? You fit into that group, you link into that group the way that we thought, you seem to have like the perfect size for the costume, so let's just take you, right? And you just feel like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? But then when you actually get to the end of the month, you're like, oh, this is terrible, right? I'm going to have to, work extra hours at the shop or on your side hustles that most artists find. And so I feel like it's important that we just, even, especially to the younger generation, start to communicate a different way of being with money and a different way of, even if it's just to ask, okay, so instead of £20, is it possible to maybe go up to 25, because I need to cover my expenses? If I look at the end of my bills, it's like at the end of the month with my bills and all of that, right? I think it is important that we truly empower young generations of artists to have incredible conversations around money and to really include that into your life and into who you are as a human person, a human being.
And so you're talking about this feeling. Is it enough to just work on feeling? And if so, can you maybe give an example of how you worked with a client to change that feeling and something shifted?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go back to one of the performers that I used to work with. And she was also a yoga teacher and was running retreats alongside also being a performer. So she was like on and off. And one of the main like standpoints for her was that there was this terror of losing whenever she would, have more money, because, she was just used to these feast or famine cycles. And it's almost like she didn't even know what it would feel like to have a steady stream of income and what it would feel like to have huge influxes of money coming through from her passions and from the things that she really loved doing. So sometimes it's in that feeling sensation, you can already locate, oh, there's a discomfort with actually having and holding the money. And for her specifically, what I feel now thinking back was that, it wasn't just the wounding of not knowing how to hold more. It was also the wounding of this stress response cycle that she lived in, because you really have to look at, the nervous system literally going, oh my gosh, feast, it's payday, like euphoria, spending, you can have whatever you want. And then all of a sudden you go back into famine, and it's like constriction, I can't have it, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So it was a whole journey to even just train her nervous system into steady coherence, right? It's okay, there's a lot of money. In the beginning, we had to kind of neutralize that before we could actually feel peace and joy around this. So very often when I work with clients, it's really about going in and feeling the sensations in the body, actually locating, okay, so where does that euphoria take you when it comes up? It's like, oh, it's around my chest, it's around my heart, of course, right? Upper energy centers. What happens when you see that all of a sudden there's no more money in your account, and you have 3 more bills that still need to be cleared this month? What happens? Where in your body is that located? Oh, it's in my belly. Like I literally feel my stomach like drop down, almost like down into my feet, right? So it's like the lower energy centers. So I know I can locate, okay, lower energy centers, that's survival. So in the beginning, it's about just locating where that sensation is in the body. Then, of course, in the work that I do, we usually tether it back to a memory or, and very often what is the most incredible in this is when we really follow and meticulously track where the body is guiding us. It will very often guide us into a memory that was not even consciously aware of. And this is what I love about this work, is that we can really work with the subtle body, we can work with the unconscious, we can really go and sink down into the timeline and uproot that pain point that was there and clear it, I would say, for good, right? Because clearly this client went from feast and famine cycles to having consistent 8K, 10K months. A year after we worked together, she sold out her retreat for the first time ever. It was incredible. And this was someone who was very stressed around money. So I feel like there is a place where it's through the soma that we find the keys, but the keys are not what you think it is, which is why I say you can't think your way to more money alone. I mean, the mindset is important, but that's not always where the solution lies. The solution truly lies in your nervous system regulation and in bringing yourself back into coherence over. And then, of course, the rest of the work is just practicing, meeting your different abundance levels, meeting your lower abundance levels. Like, how much money can't you think making less than, right? Because we have upper money ceilings, but we also have lower like money platforms where we can't think going below that. And so it's really about like titrating and like slowly trying to lift the ceiling and seeing, okay, what's the nervous response in the body? And, also dropping the platform, because like it's important that we also know how to maybe work with bigger investments where we have to get a mortgage or ask for a loan or ask for funding that maybe we have to give back. Or so it's like funding, we have a lot of money, but we can't really use it for ourselves. So there's so many different avenues through which artists come in touch with money. So it's important to look at that, span of frameworks and see, okay, So how do I deal with my everyday bills? Do I always feel anxiety and tension around money on a daily basis? Because you may not like to hear this, but this will naturally have an impact on the way that you create, because a nervous system that is constantly in stress and in survival mode just, finds it very hard to really tap into that juicy power of creation. So in a way, our wellness and well-being and our wealth are deeply connected to our creativity as artists too. Yeah.
You talked about so many powerful things like the upper money ceiling. And I feel we often try to think our way through to elevate that one, but we very rarely think about working on about this lower money ceiling, which is actually this is my reality is not going to go lower than that ever again. Or obviously, you're talking about these thoughts and feelings actually having an energetic place that we can actually locate in the body. And your work is really about unlocking that, like seeing where it is and then unlocking that so that there is more space for flow. So the first, because I have two questions. You talk about creativity being linked to how we position ourselves with wealth. Can you tell us more about that side of things? And then can you also tell us a bit more about how you unlock it in the body? Do you only use dance manifestation, or are there other embodiment coaching methods, principles that you also use to unlock whatever is stuck?
Absolutely. I love that you brought that one back, because there was something that I was thinking about, which is this broke artist syndrome that I feel is totally linked with that. It's like, in the collective, it's almost like we created this idolization of, if you think of artists like Van Gogh, for example, right? It's, oh yeah, poor him. He never made it through his life. Also, like consciously and subconsciously have taken on these wounds. I mean, I know I definitely had that, like even just hearing from everyone, oh my gosh, you're going to go study dance. How are you going to make it? Dancers usually don't make money. What's going to happen? And even my teachers, like teachers that I had in my upbringing, like, always like this money struggle, right? Like struggling with abundance and not being able to almost like cater for it, survive, alone. And it's, oh, you have to find the harbor of some kind of like abundant, generous mercenary so that you can survive, right? I'm exaggerated, but I feel like there is something where that is still very active in our subconscious collective mind. And studies have actually shown that, our subconscious is literally tethered like a network. They've done studies on societies and the way that, we link with each other. And actually, the way that we link with each other isn't with even just what we say. It's that our nervous systems actually create signals of like an electromagnetic resonance fields around us, where we literally will sync up, and the strongest nervous system will win over. So if you are constantly being bombarded with programming, and even especially as dancers and performers and creatives, so very often connected with a lot of people, right? Like you go into dance class, you have at least 50 people there. You go into an audition, sometimes it's like hundreds and hundreds of people standing in line, and everyone is like syncing up in that experience. And I feel like dancers especially are so like they have such sensitive nervous systems, because we literally are like sponges. We want to literally draw everything in and metabolize it through our body and then bring it back out as expression. But I feel like in that process, we can also pick up energetically. We can pick up on people's mindsets around money. We can pick up on their mindsets around relationships, and so on and so on. So this broke artist archetype is very much running rampant. And it doesn't matter. Like, even if you have, like, I've spoken to artists who were highly successful in their fields, like, dancers from LA, and even, like painters and sculptors who would literally be on highly impactful international events, making so much money. And always this thing of, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my luxurious VIP limo to take me to this event. Like, that framework, that state of being doesn't change with more money. And I just really want to make this clear here, because it's not because you have more money that you necessarily are abundant. And so that in itself interlinks with all of the artists and the way that we have this lucidity around money. And I mean, like, the ceiling is so much higher. Like, there's a whole world out there where you could literally position yourself as, okay, I'm an artist in this world, and I choose to have an abundant mindset. I choose, right? It's like coming back to this identity and locating and defining for yourself, which kind of artist do you desire to be? Which kind of creative do you desire to be? And which kind of relationship do you desire to have with money and abundance? How do you desire to see and look at money and abundance? Do you desire to look at it as something that is always, leaving you hanging like a lover who just like kind of comes in and leaves again? Or are you desiring to really look at this as, your best friend and coming in the highest and most opportune ways, and even in the most unexpected ways, right? You will literally make yourself available to receive money at the highest level, and also to leverage and become a highly astute leader and, chaperone with money.
The second question was related to how you then embody all of that. Because, for example, like re-rebouncing of what you just said, yeah, you were talking about the collective mind is not just our own mindset. We are actually connected so much to the collective mind. And I'm like thinking, oh gosh, I need to really cleanse myself, like have a bit of a cleansing ritual, which we do as actors, at the end of the day when we play a role, you have some sort of physical cleansing, not to stay in character, for example. You're talking about our relationship with money can be a choice. How am I going to date money here? Is it a relationship where money is going to stay energetically? Am I going to receive? But so how do you anchor it in the body? How do you really not just think about it? How do you anchor it?
I love this because, and here's where I also want to go, is even though the broke artist seems to be like the archetype that we, kind of could connect with the most because that's what we generally see. If you also look at artists, you will see, like in art history, you will also see that there were many artists and creatives who were highly astute with money, right? If you look at Monet and even, Picasso, I was just studying some of his biography recently. They were incredible businessmen. Like even Diaghilev, like the Russian ballets, like he was an incredible businessman. He had this capacity to bring in all of his artists, all of his people, like all of the funding. He was a super intelligent communicator and ambassador for his brand in terms of marketing. He probably was a pioneer, right? So I feel like we can also learn and become critical a little bit and learn that actually there are all these people who did have incredible amounts of money and, who knew how to deal with money at a higher level, right? Even if you look at today, like Cirque du Soleil, for example, they have a huge, like, I think they now have multiple campuses all over the world where they literally, have artists coming in from all over the world, and everyone, like it's a huge machine, right? And so it's really about connecting with those and really looking at different ways on how there are actually artists who have incredible skill sets with money. How do they do it? And why can't that be you? Why wouldn't you be the one who is successful and highly connected with money in that way? I feel it is important to position ourselves as that as well. And again, coming back to that decision, and not just the decision, but also feeling then, okay, so if I was powerful with money and abundance, if money was always coming in the right ways, what would I feel and look like? How would I hold myself in this world? Who would be the people that I would talk to? How would I have conversations around money? Would I maybe ask for a pay rise and, negotiate my salary immediately because I know I have a big mission on the other end? And, it's like we will not make the same compromises. That's what I feel. When we really decide and we become clear what that state of being of abundance is for us and what that means for us as creatives and artists, we just will not have the same conversations. And that's a good thing.
And me coming from a physical theater background, just you saying, hey, if money was in my life, if money, was flowing in, how would I stand? How would I walk? How would I hold myself? And I'm like, ooh, actually, as a physical theater artist, I'm already analyzing this character, right? That is being wealthy. And I'm like, yeah, I would walk differently, or so on top of your dance manifestation that you explained already in the first episode, I feel those are small little physical changes that we can bring into our lives to unlock these energies that are stuck.
Also, like, journaling, you can, dance, you can literally stand. I loved, for example, as a dancer, just before going into interviews, about job positions, I would love to just go to the bathroom and stand in a power pose and like channel that experience into my body, or listening to a certain type of music that makes me feel joyful and connected with all of life, right? Before I would go into auditions. And it's crazy because that stuff really worked. I didn't know at the time, like I wasn't linking it necessarily with that. But there are things that we can definitely do in order to get us into that high impact energy, right? Especially if you feel like, you go into fear and freeze responses. It could be very helpful maybe in the morning before your big event or your big conversation that you're about to have, to, I don't know, prowl around like a predator and try to like rip apart your thoughts and your limiting beliefs about yourself and about the things that you are, like, the monkey mind that kind of creates all of these stories that, people will reject you and won't love you and whatever. And then instead you rip them apart like bait, and you would literally like satisfy yourself, come back to a certain level of connection and joy and pleasure, right? Because I feel like money is not just something on the outside. It actually lives and breathes through us. And that state of being truly is where I know that energetically, that's where we sync up into coherence and we bring in more.
Love it. Love the visualization part of all what you described. When we were talking about making this episode, you also talked about the fact that we often dismiss the signs of success. Could you talk a little bit more about that and how that impacts our relationship to wealth?
So there is this thing that I love to to talk about, which is post-traumatic success disorder. So it's like PTSD, like post-traumatic stress disorder, it's actually post-traumatic success disorder. And so what I know to be true is that very often when we start to bring in the thing we really desire, it's almost like we have the BOGOs coming out and trying to just dismiss what we've just done or even sabotage what we've just done. I know that I've done this for sure, where I had incredible opportunities coming to me, and literally I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then the next day I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And then I literally would cancel it because now I know my nervous system wasn't prepared to hold high levels of success. So it's like, we keep ourselves under this certain ceiling. And it's like every time that something goes slightly over, it's like we get overwhelmed and then we dismiss it, or we won't show up to that audition, although we know we should really go there, right? Or we find some kind of excuse. Well, I've got work that day, so I can't really cancel work because da da da, when actually no, you're just nervous about actually receiving exactly what you want. And other things that I've seen, for example, the again coming back to the client, she that I talked about before, like the first time she landed 7.5K, she didn't even count her money, like if I had not asked her, so how much did you actually make in the end, right? She was just talking about, well, and this client, but how much did you actually make? Like the fact that we're not even clear about the money that's coming in and going out, that's a level of post-traumatic success disorder, because we won't even give ourselves credit for the thing we actually achieved, right? And that's again coming back to how we so quickly cancel ourselves out of the high money game. But I feel it's so important to acknowledge even the tiniest steps and to really acknowledge them as, I am safer with money every single day. I'm safer and safer with abundance. I'm allowing things to come touch me, and look, this month I received fill in the blank, right? And I feel like money and abundance, that currency, that energetic currency, loves transparency. right? It loves the transparency that comes through the clarity of your coherent state of being. And it loves to be acknowledged, right? So we have two different ways, like two different qualities of money. We have the masculine kind of money and we have the feminine kind of money, right? I don't know if we have time to go into this, but just very shortly, like the masculine framework of money is the money that takes care of the bills. It's the money that gives you anchoring, that gives you stability, that gives you that sensation of I am safe in this world, I get to survive in this world, and I have more than enough, right? The feminine kind of money, so I think last time we were talking about the bed of the ocean and the feminine being the ocean and the water. So the feminine kind of money is money that really comes from pure pleasure, pure joy. And I feel like artists, we are so good at doing these two. I know for sure that the money that was coming in, for example, from my side hustles, that was masculine money, right? It wasn't dirty. Like for so long, I always would dismiss that kind of money because it's, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm making that money, but it's not really, coming from my passion. So I had this strange knee-jerk reaction with that kind of money. Although, well, wait, like now that I'm looking at it, and if we remove the judgment over that, it's no, that was masculine money. That was the money that was keeping me safe and anchored and grounded and making sure that I could, buy my dance classes every week and that I could, pay for all the things that I needed. And then there was the magic money, which is, the I don't know, the tips that you would get from going out into performances, or you would make money from your passion. That's like feminine energy money. And so you can also change this quality, right? You could literally be making through that stream of feminine, of the creative, the passion, the love, the thing you enjoy, and literally go, okay, I'm making this incredible magic honey money, like that juicy sweet that feels so good, right? And I am now choosing to transcend it into masculine money that offers me an anchored stability for me. And then the other way around, right? Side hustle, or, the money that comes in through the teaching jobs and the things that you're doing because, you just need to cover your bills, and literally turn it into magic money, like feminine money and creative money by, I don't know, buying a new microphone or whatever that is, a new camera, right? So you can literally manage and start to realize that all of these types of money streams have different qualities to them. And acknowledging that is so, so fun.
You also talked about having money, holding it, and leveraging it. Is there anything that you would like to add to what you've already said about those three layers? Having it, holding it, and leveraging it. And if there's anything different in terms of the energetic flowing behind it.
Yeah, for sure. There is definitely a difference. The having of money is linked to just understanding that you do actually have it. It's the money that's sitting in your bank account, it's the money that you're invoicing people for. That's the having of money, right? Then we also have the circulation of money. Like I didn't talk about that, but it's like, how money flows in and out, right? Which kind of quality that has. The keeping of money is really the place where you have this awareness that there is money that you you like you receive it, it goes, right, and then there's some amount that you keep, you hold, right? You keep it, it's on the side, it's always there. And so what I've come to see is a very interesting link between actually holding money in your field, because we are very quick to getting rid of money. And I'm working through this exact wound right now with another client. She's not a creative, but it works the same way. Is that we have noticed that every time that she does have the money, it's like she will always make sure she spends this as quickly as possible. And it didn't come from a place of lucidity or consciousness all the way until now. So imagine this woman is now in her 40s. She's never even had the acknowledgement that she could even hold the money or hold the money for longer. And it's really like now we're playing this game of how many more days can she hold the money before she actually clears a bill or before she spends it immediately, right? So we're practicing things like she really desires to buy, this new pair of shoes. And then instead of buying it straight when she goes to the shop, can she just look at the shoes, enjoy that she desires these shoes, not buy them that day, and wait maybe until a week later or 2 weeks later and see, and check in. Do I still desire it? Does it still feel in alignment with who I desire to be in my, next level of life? So that's really how we can play with holding money, experiencing that sensation, and also experiencing the nervous sensation with, oh my gosh, it's there. What am I going to do with it? And literally like having her sit on her hands so she doesn't spend it immediately, but she just gives herself that grace of literally being able to look at the money sitting in her bank account and enjoying it sitting there and imagining all of the possibilities of how she could possibly, spend it, and even keep it, right? Is there an amount that maybe she desires to keep every month, right? And then the leveraging of money really is about understanding where you can put your money with intention so that it yields back more. So here we could, talk about investing opportunities, but also, just I feel like artists in general is okay. So there is this bigger dream that I have, which is, I don't know, I'm just thinking of you, Cindy, as an actress, like making, short movies, right? Okay, so to make short movies, you will need equipment. Okay. So you will then maybe start to create like a pocket in your bank account where it's going to be for that purpose, and then reinvesting it later so it can leverage back for you. Because, of course, if you then have camera equipment, you could not just use it for yourself, but you could also maybe share it with other artists, or, you could create better quality, right? So that's the leveraging of money. It's how to use money for the purpose of creating more value and creating more revenue streams. Because of course, if you have a different equipment, you'll be able to, maybe even hire someone, to help you with the camera, or maybe you'd be more likely to be placed into projects. So there's just a way on how we can see and look at how money can create more of itself, right? And I specifically love to use the magic kind of money, like that feminine money, and to put it into that masculine framework of I am holding it. This is my safety. This is what will create stability and safety. And it's like this big king energy, right? That I love to talk about, and use that kind of money to then invest to create more magic money. So it's like really looking at money as a currency and looking at money as something that desires to circulate, and that you are kind of like this, domineering goddess or god, literally saying, okay, this much over there, this much over here, and oh, this feels good. Okay, let me wait a few more days. Let me feel into it. How does that feel? Oh, I'm feeling a bit tense around that. Okay, it's okay. Breathe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm so good with money, right? And you just like really start to feel a whole, it's like a whole new relationship that you're building. And I feel like money really is like a partner to me now. It is like a lover, like my best friend who literally just desires for me to have more love and more abundance and more of the good things and more of the magic.
Absolutely love how you're presenting it, like the visualization of it. Also, just the flow between masculine and feminine energy of money, and how we just have to have both in life, but how we go from one to the other, and just the playfulness that you add to it, because that playfulness is so important, to not be stuck in our anxieties, but just be playful with it and give a lighter tone to it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The playful energy is where the inner child really releases. It's coming back to that transcendental experience that we talked about on the first podcast together. It's coming back to this innocent childhood play. And in that innocent childhood play, we really start to tap into our zone of genius. And that's where really cosmic love, cosmic creation really comes to touch us and bless us. It's a fabulous way to look at it. So thank you for pointing that out, Cindy.
So we talked a lot about becoming energetically, financially literate. So those are the words that you use. Is there anything that I haven't yet touched upon and that you're like, Cindy, we cannot leave the podcast without talking about this in order to become energetically, financially literate?
Wow, that's an incredible question. We have talked about so many things. I feel like, yes, there is actually. There is a place where we have this triangulation, right? And so I really love to look at this, like the triangulation aspects of me with myself, me with the community, and community, society, and me with the higher power, with God, with creative life force, with the big muse in the sky going in, sprinkling her magic. And I feel like money is an integral part of this. And so when we start to really work on that synergy between me and myself, how I deal with money, how I desire to position myself with money, how this really creates a ripple effect into the collective. And I feel like, like I want to liberate as many women and creatives on the planet as possible, where we could literally become like little radio signaling towers all across the globe and create this energetically coherent state of being and having more power with money. Because coming back to the nervous system regulation and how our nervous systems calibrate with one another is that really to challenge yourself as an artist, that when you see, a friend, a sister, a colleague, like literally coming to you with that framework of abundance and money, to question it and to not even say a word, but to trust that you've got yourself. Even listening to the stories and, oh my gosh, like I'm so broke again, and all the things that you probably hear on a daily basis. And to really look for how interesting, like, isn't that interesting? This person is having this experience with money and literally sending love and compassion, but also, I don't have to hold this. I don't have to accept this as mine. And I feel like that's really, coming back to that powerful identity that you are the source of power. And so to trust that by you being in your source of power, that people will ultimately click with that. They will understand it. Some people may, not really understand it, and that's fine. But that you just become this beacon of abundant literacy and energetic literacy on the planet, because we truly need more of that. And to understand also that there is a much bigger force field holding us right now. As a collective, I don't think it is a hazard that we all incarnated right here on the planet at this exact moment in time, where literally the world is in shatters in so many ways, but there's also so much creativity that is possible. And I feel like we can really energetically position ourselves into that. Okay, no, we are the place of power. We are the source of expression. We are here, because we have a massive mission, and, we're pioneers in our own ways. And to really own that you truly have this desire in your heart. And by the way, we don't get to choose our desires. Our desires just are. And that's really the beautiful place. And that your desire to be an abundant artist is right and rightful, and it belongs to you. It is your birthright to experience yourself as that, even if your reality is not a match to that yet. But to decide that you get to have that experience with yourself, and you get to go on this playful adventure to explore. So what else is possible? Like, how can I be the one breaking through this pattern, as an artist, as a human being on the planet with this big mission? How can I be almost like a glitch in the matrix, like a glitch in the system, where it wasn't like I was not supposed to be abundant. I was not supposed to have wealth. I was not supposed to be, the one who, broke through her higher level of ceiling with success and more revenue coming in and funding. It wasn't supposed to be me, but somehow it happened. And I also want to leave the audience with like an amazing opportunity to sign in and have access to one of my favorite abundance prayers that I offer for free. You can find it in all my media. It's called the Money Queen Gift Box. And you will have a prayer there. And I desire for you to have access to all of that. Maybe, Cindy, we can put that in the link description as well, because I feel like it is just such a beautiful prayer. I love to write it in all of my, the first page of my journal. I will put it down. I will sometimes send it, as like a little side note whenever I'm doing donations or whenever I'm paying, for beautiful art online. I just, usually you have a little pocket, a little box where you can put a comment. I very often love to spread that abundance prayer because I feel like it takes a moment of prayer. It takes a moment of introspection to connect with that force field of abundance that truly is just coming in, trying to find you in the most extraordinary ways. And I would love the audience to have access to that.
Thank you so much, Lisy, for all of this. Can you share eventually an example or two of results that some of your clients have had or things that shifted within you? So a quick before and after, and also, maybe different embodying methods that they used, with you in order to create that change in their lives.
Yes, of course. So, in terms of results that people can get, I mean, I've seen women leveraging all the way, to 15K, 13K in 60 days. I've seen women becoming the sole hereditary of like fundings for like 100K. I mean, I've seen phenomenal results. One of the things that I find the most beautiful is that when women truly understand like the way that money comes in for them, and there is a very unique pathway for each and every single one of us, um there is just so much joy and love involved. And it creates freedom and liberation because I really feel that money is an amplifier. Money amplifies who you already are. And so seeing women, with big hearts, with big missions on the planet, really like touching into that level of wealth and abundance, it's a true liberation, not just because, it's amazing to make more money, but because there is just so much involved. There are so many people that these women are touching now, and who themselves will be touching, also their own communities and collectives and even generations to come. And I feel today truly is the perfect day to make a powerful commitment with yourself that you get to be this crack in the system in the most delicious way. And that for some reason, the abundance of the world just starts to come towards you. Not even because it's nice for you to make more money, but because there's a whole collective, there's a whole group beyond you that is literally just waiting for you to tap into that so you can be more of yourselves. And I feel like that's really what I've come to see is that the women that I work with, it isn't just about making more money at all. It's actually about tapping into higher levels of expression and liberating their voices to a place where they actually get to be seen as the most coherent, authentic, fully expressed version of themselves. And that is incredible. I just love that. I just truly, this is what gets me up in the morning. It's just to see women and incredible humans win at life in a big way, and having them really drop into their hearts, into that deeper place where, nobody needs to know, but they know. And when they know, that's the fun part. That's when the adventure truly begins.
Thank you so much, Lisy. I'm going to re-listen to this episode over and over again. I already made loads of notes for myself. So I feel very enriched in my heart and in my soul. So we will obviously put the prayer that you talked about in the show notes. And other than that link that will be in the show notes, where can people find you on social media if they want to get in touch with you, see more about your work, or eventually get you as a coach?
Oh, yes, with pleasure. So they can find me on lizybutterfly.com or on all the medias. I'm under the handle at Lisy Butterfly. So it's very easy to find me. I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisy. And I will definitely keep you up to date about how I will be flying as, an abundant, energetic bubble, not just for myself, but also because you brought it so beautifully up, like how we can also shine that abundance on the world and create ripple effects in that sense. And that was really beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I love that for you. And yes, that's who you really are. And thank you for having me. Such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.